Do you ever play a game of Overwatch and you lose 3-0, game's done in 10 minutes, you just got absolutely destroyed, you end up sitting there wondering what on earth happened? I played in one of those games yesterday. Today I'm going to be breaking down exactly what went wrong for this team. This was played with 2 platinums, 2 golds, and 2 unranked. So if you're within that bracket, you may find this video helpful. The first thing I noticed when reviewing this game was how long this team took to set up for this first choke, for this first fight. You can see the Orisa is there for some reason, and then they decide to go up to the high ground. Meanwhile, we are here already fighting. We're already getting ready for this first choke. And then she jumps down, and now she's set up. You should already be set up. Plain as day. Because they took so long to set up, we've already done a little bit of poke damage to them, but the first big mistake that they make happens right here. So you can see that Baptiste, their second support, is separated from the rest of their team. Our team then capitalizes on that and kills him quite quickly. Anytime you're fighting 5v6 is an uphill fight, so you obviously do not want to be doing that. So there are a number of things here I want to break down, so I'm going to put it in slow motion for a moment. The first thing is, this Zarya uses both of her bubbles in very quick succession. The first here, so she can go deal some damage to our Rhine, and in just a moment she will shield Soldier 76. We then quickly kill their Orisa. Our Junkrat and our Zenyatta kill Orisa, and we have the opportunity to push up and get through their shields. In the meantime, Genji begins to flank. This would be more beneficial if it weren't essentially a 4v6 fight. At this point in time, we get a quick pick on Moira as well, because there's nothing stopping us. And this Genji takes out our Junkrat. Ultimately, doesn't make a lot of impact because it just makes the fight 5v3 instead of 6v3. Okay, so much happens on this next choke that I'm going to play the whole thing full speed and then play it in slow motion and break down all the different things that happen during this fight, because there is a lot of detail, a lot of things happen in a very short period of time.
Pass into the iris. I've got you in my sight. Just so.
Again, I'm going to use slow motion in this section just to show exactly what happens, because a lot happens in such a short time. So you'll see our Hanzo on Obi-Wan's high ground. He quickly gets a pick on the opposing team's Soldier 76. Shortly after that happens, the enemy Moira fades back and decides to use her ult. In my opinion, this is a wasted ult. The only person on her team that had low health was Orisa at this point. Baptiste, as we'll see, still had his immortality field, so they easily could have just placed that. If they were worrying about her dying, they easily could have just placed that and both focus healed her, got her to full health very quickly. While this is going on, Reinhardt charges in, and he tries to get a pick on the enemy team's Genji. He misses the pin, But ultimately this doesn't affect our team negatively, because they don't focus fire and kill our Reinhardt like they should have. Instead, they're still just focusing the main choke when they should have been focusing our Reinhardt. Okay, so a couple of things happen here almost simultaneously. So our Zenyatta over here had just landed a Discord Orb on Baptiste. He then body shots him and kills him, so you'll see that in just a second. At the same time, Genji goes up these stairs to go at our Reinhardt. At the exact time, Reinhardt is throwing a fire strike. So it's a bit lucky for our team then that he was throwing it at that exact moment. He then whacks him and kills him straight away. So it all happens very quickly. Okay, there is Baptiste dead. There is Genji about to get whacked. And then what we're going to see, Zarya is about to use her ult. However, she shoots it directly into our D.Va's defense matrix. So it's gone. That was another wasted ult here, because the fight was already 3v6. They shouldn't have been using that ult, they should have been retreating at this point to regroup, try and get it on the next choke. As Zenyatta uses his ult, I assume that was just reflex. Hearing that voice line is usually a cue to use it, because it usually means a lot of damage is about to come. We get a pick on Moira and Orisa here, and Orisa runs like she should. This is one of the biggest mistakes in this game at this point, in my opinion. Soldier arrives when he should have been backing out, and he decides to use his ult. He gets discorded, and Zenyatta kills him in a pinch. In this fight, there are a few things that they could have done better. Being ready for that Hanzo headshot. Ultimately, the only thing they could have done differently there is maybe if they had gone to high ground, you know, somewhere in this region, anywhere there, may have been more beneficial to them. The second thing is obviously don't waste this ult. They could have comboed that with Zarya's ult, but they didn't. They could have held that for when it would be more impactful, for when that would heal more of the team when everyone was lower. That would have been a lot more helpful there. They heal one person and get very little value out of it. Third thing is that they should have focused this Reinhardt. Genji tries, but ultimately can't do it by himself. So if the whole team had focused that Reinhardt when he pinned and landed here, they could have got him. They just needed to focus him as hard as they could. If everyone had damaged him, they probably could have gotten that pick, and that would have changed the fight dramatically. You know, they would still have that Genji, and then obviously we then don't have a shield. The next thing is another pretty obvious one as well. For Zarya, she unfortunately wasted her ult. She shot it right into the defense matrix of D.Va. When you know that the other team has the exact counter to what you want to do, you need to be prepared for that. So shooting that directly into the team, although that's good in a lot of situations, it is not good if a D.Va is on the opposite team. So should have held it and waited. Or just shoot it at the ground. If you think it might get swallowed up by D.Va, shoot it at the ground. It has pretty decent radius to suck the opposition in. Even if you can just stop the opposing team from moving for a couple of seconds, that can give your team the opportunity to get out. The next one is probably the most obvious in the video. This soldier just should not have been here at this point in time. He's not a person, he's not a character, I should say, sorry, that can take on 6 at once. Especially with low health, especially discorded. There was no way he was going to win that fight. At best, he could have got a pick on Zenyatta, but that's it. Those are the things they could have done there. I think, in my opinion, it falls down to communication and lack of teamwork in this situation. So in that fight, at the minimum, the soldier, Zarya, and Moira should have survived. They should, once they got to that point, they should have just fled. We push forward, we clean up the Zarya, and at this point it's just moving the payload forward. I'm going to put this in slow motion again just because a couple of things happen quite quickly. And it's all about using resources inefficiently. So our Hanzo, up here, he decides to ult through the choke. Ultimately, he doesn't get any kills with it. But what does happen is that Zarya uses her bubble, and she had already used her other bubble on Baptiste. So they have nothing to protect themselves from this, except Baptiste's immortality field, which he throws down, but unfortunately he throws it too far in front of himself and no one is inside it. This kills both Zarya and Baptiste, putting their team in another 4v6 situation. The obvious things on improving there: time your bubbles. She didn't need to use either bubble there for herself or for her teammate. You know, both were in a fine position and weren't going to die from Hanzo's ult in that situation. The second thing, that's just mechanical practice for Baptiste. Land the immortality field where you need to land it. Okay, so after D.Va's bomb, our tanks rush in to take out Orisa and Moira. We're fighting 5v4 at this point because our Junkrat is about to get killed by Soldier 76 rocket launcher. Ultimately, it doesn't impact the fight very much. Our team doesn't overextend, which I was thankful for, because I'm just sitting here, riding the payload, chilling out, waiting for this last point. So blue team continues making the same mistakes throughout this last fight. So the first thing you'll notice is this Genji, once again, overextending. So he comes in here, not knowing that our Reinhardt was here, waiting for someone to overextend. Probably hoping to land a pin, but in this instance didn't need to. D.Va and Rein focus Genji down and secure the kill very quickly. After this happens, something I find very, very interesting happens. So our Reinhardt chooses to flank in. The only person that notices him is Bastion. So Bastion starts shooting at him, but can't kill him solo. The rest of the team are all looking at the main choke, so you can see everyone that's still left alive is facing the front. No one, except Bastion, is looking at our Reinhardt. If they had turned and focus fired Reinhardt, they could have killed him at this point. Especially as Bastion has his ult. Sorry, not Bastion, Baptiste has his ult. So if he had set that up somewhere, you know, if they had parked up here with the amplification there, that could have been huge. They could have taken out that Reinhardt and then continued doing damage into the middle. It seems like they're not communicating, so that's not what occurs. Reinhardt jumps down, uses his ult, stuns the enemy Zarya, and then immediately charges back to the front so that he doesn't get focus fired. Now he's drawn this attention to himself. What does happen though, he gets back, he hits Baptiste, who had already been overextending. He should have been further back, at least behind that line, but he was a lot further forward than he should have. So I begin to use my ult and quickly secure this kill on the enemy Baptiste. Okay, so he's dead. Orisa retaliates by using her ults, but because she's standing in the middle of the team, fight, I should say, everyone quickly focuses her, kills her, and destroys her ults. If she had put that here, then it would have been safe from damage from us because no one is that far ahead. We're all behind this line. So it would have been safe there. If it was up the top, it potentially could have damage boosted the opposition bastion. We continue to push up, and there's both supports and Reinhardt's Fire Strike. We focus down Bastion and kill him very quickly. What occurs next is another interesting thing. Genji ults and dives directly into the back of the fight. He would have been better off killing me or our Zenyatta, but he goes straight in at our Hanzo. Taking out the supports here removes any sustain, so that would have been the wiser choice for this Genji. But ultimately, we didn't do that. While this happens, Zarya uses her ult. If they were trying to combo that, that could have worked out. Maybe these two were communicating and the rest of the team weren't, but he goes directly for hand instead of the people caught in the grab. What does happen is that Moira comes in on the side here and begins to use her ult as well. Okay, so I'll pause it here. So what you'll see is the enemy Zarya is very, very low health. She's probably got 25 to 50 health left at this point. We are full health, essentially, at this point. And Zarya is discorded, so it's not a lot of effort for us to focus her and kill her very, very quickly. What this Moira doesn't do is that she ends up extending over this way to get damage into that grav. If she had gone this way, or if both players moved that way, then she would have been able to deal that damage that she wanted to deal, as well as heal the opposing Zarya, who was very much at risk. Instead, they move in opposite directions, and we secure the kill on Zarya. So now it's a 3v2 fight, because Genji's ult and Moira's ult has taken out our D.Va, Junkrat, and Hanzo. It's 3 ults to kill 3 of us is not the best trade.
My aim is unerring.
We quickly secure both of these kills, and the team fight ends. What you'll see at the end here is that Baptiste comes out and uses his ult just for the sake of using it. The round was already over. But that speaks to something else. He had that ult the whole team fight. So if he had used that at any point, that could have turned the tide. If he'd used that with Bastion, then Bastion could have torn apart our Reinhardt when he was flanking, and then done damage into our main line. But he didn't. He held onto him and overextended. So there was great potential for comboing all the ults that they had, but they didn't. for some reason. Even if that Baptiste had just used that ult solo, then that could have been the difference maker. Unfortunately he did. Another thing I noticed as well is the opposing team's Moira and how much they heal. They don't heal very much at all. They were very frequently out of resources and couldn't continue to heal, and that cost them some of these fights. Gonna go back to this at the end of the video and compare how I played as Moira to how they played as Moira, because I find it very different, especially in the use of healing and damage orbs. The ratio of damage to healing, it's two ends of the same spectrum. It's crazy comparatively. But what I'm trying to say is they had multiple ultimates that they could have comboed here, but didn't. I think it just turns out to be lack of communication. They weren't able to say, Genji, stop overextending, flank a different way, Reinhardt's there. All of these things caused this last team fight to collapse. So when this blue team is attacking, they continue to make the same mistakes. I'm going to play through this in fast motion because it took them a very, very long time to get anything done on this first choke. So as you'll see, they overextended and they lost the number of players almost immediately. We're then able to keep that payload coming back and just holding it in place. It took them about 3 minutes to be able to actually get any type of meaningful push on us, and I'll slow it down when we get there because it's quite interesting how our team responded to that initial push. Okay, yeah, on this next team fight, okay, so you'll see here our Roadhog got booped off. Next thing that happens is that our Zenyatta gets pushed back and then killed, and Lucio uses his ult as well. So we are now in a 6v4. We are at a great disadvantage. We start pushing back straight away. Hog starts using his ult as well for that extra crowd control, trying to secure these kills on us. What we do is that we continue to push back, or flee I should say. We lose Junkrat and we also lose our soldier as well, but ultimately by the time we are back ready to defend the payload, our Hog and Zen are also back and ready to continue the defense on this payload. Another thing that you see quite often is a greedy Junkrat ult. So he should have been using his ult as soon as he was in range of this Hog, because anytime you're outnumbering the team is a team fight you can win. That would have taken it to 3v6 instead of 4v6. But instead, our Zen manages to destroy it. Our Reinhardt begins to push in and lands the pin on this Roadhog. Something I found very interesting that was happening during this is that the enemy diva begins to emote. I can't overstate how much I love to see this. I'm going to switch here and show my point of view of this team fight, because I ult and we take out the team. This is their last chance because we're very much outnumbered. Okay, so breaking down this team fight from my point of view, we capitalize, take out that robot, and then me and Ryan combo our ults to take out the remaining players here. I also throw a little orb in on here just to secure the kill on this Junkrat. He only had 10 HP left, so it was one tick and he was done. Okay, so watching that again from the outside looking in, that Hog way overextended. He shouldn't have been pushing up that much. At least if he had the team with him, that would have been a more viable option. If everyone had stayed together, they all pushed up and Baby Diva just rode the payload up, that would have been more viable. Except we see Baby Diva emoji, just having a bit of fun. But this is the last chance they had to really secure this win. We clean up the team, and they don't really get another opportunity from here. There's much less for me to break down in this last team fight, other than showing how we survived the things they threw at us. So what happens here is that their Brig uses her ult, but for some reason the team does not stick together and benefit from this. So she goes behind the payload. You can see Lucio and Brig are both armored up, but no one else is. Their Hog is on high ground, not getting any benefit from it. Their Diva is behind and not getting any benefit. Their Reaper has flanked. He has a little bit of armor, but should have tried to stay in that a little longer to get the full benefit of this. This ult doesn't work out for this team because it wasn't utilized properly as a team. So our Hog and our Hanzo both use their ults, and not much is gained from that. The Diva uses her ults, but we all manage to survive. I survived as Moira because I blinked out at the last second, and because I was blinked, Reinhardt's shield saved anyone back here. Zen and Hog are behind the payload, so they're both fine as well. After this, it's just securing the kill on the Diva and the Reaper that comes in, and the team fight is over. When I watched this game back for the first time, as I mainly play support, the first thing I noticed was how little the opposing Moira threw healing orbs. So I went through, watched the whole game from both of our perspectives, and I counted how many healing orbs and damage orbs both of us threw. So I played Moira the whole game, and I threw 24 healing orbs and 5 damage orbs. In one round, because they swapped to Brig in the second, the opposing Moira threw 2 healing orbs and 9 damage orbs. So it's opposite ends of the spectrum for me and this other player. It's paramount when you're playing Moira that you focus your healing orb. You're a support character first, and you have things in your kit where you can do damage. The only times I was throwing damage orbs was if my team was full health and if the opposition was a bit grouped up and far away, so that I can get a couple ticks on them and build some ult charge. This person would heal their teammate, and then as soon as they've got their orb off cooldown, throw a damage orb. They did that constantly. There was times where I pointed out that they could have healed that Orisa. Just before that, in that second fight, they push to the very front, they throw their damage orb, get injured, back out, and then start using their ult to heal that Orisa. So drastically different play styles from us two. A couple of things I want to highlight is just how punishing dying is early in a team fight, especially if you're the defensive team. When we got that first pick on Baptiste, it took him probably 20 to 30 seconds to get back into the team fight, and we'd already secured the payload by that time. There was no hope. Once he was finally back, we'd already cleaned up the rest of their team. A second thing to keep in mind is knowing where you need to be positioned at all times. We quite frequently took advantage of players that had overextended, whether it was the Genji, the Baptiste, or the Hog. We capitalized whenever they moved too far into where we were. Every time they did that, we killed them very, very quickly. If you're flanking flanking's perfectly fine. I'm not saying don't flank, but you need to know where to flank, and you need to have an objective. You're not just flanking to see what you can get, you need to have purpose. And the third thing is, as a support player, don't feel bad about requesting healing. It's paramount that both support characters keep each other alive at all times. So anytime one is dead, the other's job becomes 10 times harder, and the odds of winning decrease dramatically. So don't feel bad about requesting healing. This video's gone for much longer than I anticipated it to. There was just a lot more details in there that I didn't expect and wanted to highlight, just to show exactly why we basically demolished this team. If you want to see more content like this, please let me know. I'm happy to do more of this, or if there's something specific you want me to look at, like a particular character's skill set and what positioning benefits that character the most, please let me know and I'm happy to make a video on that. If you want a specific, guide for a particular character, like a guide on how I play Moira versus how this person played Moira, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments and I'll get to it. And lastly, I do stream this on Twitch, so you can come watch me play games just like this on Twitch if you're interested in that. It's twitch.com/Valentine_IX, like Valentine_9. Please come join me there if you're interested in watching that. Also, please consider liking and subscribing if you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much. Have a good day.